Welcome to another Create Greg video. My name is Greg and in today's episode I will prove you I can't do music, I shouldn't sing or even figure out how to put the beats on this table, but I know something how to edit music, how to cut your video footage to the beats. So I would like to share with you today. It is my 25th YouTube video on my journey to make 100 of them to start with, and every single video I'm always curious what's supposed to be my next video, what kind of video will bring you the most value. And looking at the comments from people, what they would expect was their feedback. One of them was like, can you show us how to cut video to beats? So I said like, yeah, let's talk about it. And 3 weeks ago I posted my New York video from my trip just before COVID hit, and this one went pretty well, and part of it is music. So today I would like to talk how I do my sound editing process, from getting the track, getting the sound effects, how you organize everything before you even start editing. Now let's watch it one more time, but this version will be just only with the soundtrack. Let's watch it. Let's get back to beginning and start talking how we made that music. I will actually do one step back because that's not the song I want to go for. When I was doing research for the song, I decided to go for the older one. It's the same author, so it will be very similar. And the rest of the song, unfortunately, is fast-paced. It's more upbeating, it's more dynamic, and I thought that would be amazing. The only drawback, most of my footage was shot in 120 frames per second, so it actually gave me 5 times slowdown. So if you've got this fast-paced, nice music, especially with the beats when they are going up, going for slow motion video, it doesn't do well for your video. So I need to get back to my drawing board and find another tune. And everyone who tried to find the matching music to the video know how painful and time consuming it can be. It can take you hours to find the right one, but once you got it, from then on everything will be easier. So with every single project, what I will advise you to, you've got 2 routes to go. If you got pre-planned, pre-scheduled project and you've got the script and you know what kind of outcome you're looking for, then you can start looking for music which will match the vision of your video. If you've got video like this, which was more like guerrilla filmmaking, I was going 2 days around New York and trying to capture as much footage as possible. Then I actually went through all that footage, found the best part of that footage, dropped them into timeline, and then tried to put them all together to create the story behind it. So at this point, when I've got everything on the timeline, I knew what kind of footage I've got. It was the right moment to go to my browser and find the right music. Once we've got the footage and then we've got the music, now we can start creating our story. A bit of story how to organize yourself for video editing. If you go to Media Pool, you will see I've got something like SFX, SFX lens distortion, and soundtrack. Once you drop everything, organize all your footage, you are ready. What I'm doing, I'm creating the folder which I'm going to put the soundtrack I'm going to use. Right off the bat, I try to keep everything organized to speed up my workflow. So every time when I need something, it's already organized in the folder. So the first one will be soundtrack. I'm putting soundtrack, I'm putting my footage, and then starting mix and matching all of it. Then I've got something which is called SFX from Lens Distortion. It's the company who does sound effects. They've got like 4 packs: anticipation, statement, archetype, and endurance. I got all of them. Very nice. You can get all these whooshes, hits, razors, all the cinematic effects which add value to your video. Then we've got the folder which is called SFX, and in this folder I found the sounds I needed for this particular projects, like clicks, construction, metal hit, sound of the plane passing by, as well as ambient sound of the street. If you look at my folders, I will go to assets. I've got everything nicely organized into assets for pictures, sound, and videos. If you go for sound, so the first folder is from Adobe. You can get the sound effects from Adobe website. They are for free. There's quite a lot of them, as you can see. Then we've got the ones from our lens distortion. Then we've got our music licenses. I'm keeping everything in one folder. And then this is SFX for Create Greg. And this is the one I've been collecting for a while. So you can see like rewind, camera sounds, clapboard, clicks, animals, you name it. I'm just keeping them in the one place. So for every single time when I need of them, I can just only drag and drop and add to the project. Every time when I'm starting my project, I've got the blank canvas on the here. And what I'm doing, I'm dragging my SFX lens distortion, I'm adding it to the project. And when I'm within the project, I don't have to go outside it. Everything is at my disposal, so I can speed up my workflow. Once everything is done and organized, we can crack on with editing. Let's close our media pool and look at our timeline. And I would like to stress again how important it is how well you organize yourself, how clean is your timeline, how well organized is your folders. All these small bits and pieces will increase your workflow and speed up your process enormously. And when you do a lot of edits, this single thing is priceless. Let's look at our audio track number 1. I'm using this one most of the time for my dialogues, monologues, because this particular project don't have any dialogue, so I decided to use it for my sound effects. Then we've got 2 and 3 audio track, and I'm using this one for sound effects as well. General rule of thumb, we've got the dialogues, monologues on the top track, then we've got the sound effects, and the amount of audio tracks for sound effects depends how many sound effects we want to add to our project. Then I've got another 2 tracks which I use for ambient sound, and the very last one at the bottom is our soundtrack. Let's focus on the soundtrack first and let's look at our video. Let's start off. We've got our music nicely starting, first beat, and we've got the cut. So when you look closely at the soundtrack, you see the waveform, and as you see certain patterns of the waveform, this part of the waveform, it's our beats. If you look at our footage above, you see the first beat and we cut from one shot to another one. then we go for rhythmic 2 beats and another one, then we cut to another shot. When you look at this part of the footage, you see the different pattern. There is no typical beats going up and down, up and down. It's more like a continuous music. So because of that, I decided to keep it in one shot. And now we hear another beat, listen. And with this beat, we cut to another frame, similar pattern. Boom, boom, boom. You see, we jump between the beats and we've got this rhythmic cutting, and we see this similar pattern to the part of the song we saw previously. Even when you look in this particular part of the music, we've got this beat which allow us to do cuts. Listen to it carefully. Boom, boom, boom. Exactly the same pattern. We've got this part of the music, we've got the beat, and then we've got the rhythmic beats which allow us to do this precise cuts. Similar story, our music goes between these beats which going up and down to more, I would say, constant music. Hear this pattern. With this part of the video, I try to bring a bit of variety. It's very good to cut to the beat, but not to get your video boring. So you will cut all the time to the same beat and you will have the same pace. The whole masterpiece of making videos to be able to create it in the way when it's going up and down. You've got the rhythm, but you're going out of rhythm. That's the whole craftsmanship of getting good editing. When you look at this one, we've got our characteristic beat, second, third, fourth. So when you look, instead of cutting between the scenes, I decided to use more of like a master shot, so I keep my shot longer. We see my fiance going in slow motion. The first beat, we introduce title on the screen. Another one was the same shot, but we went for the close-up. When with another beat, we show another title. And then within the close-up, we've got another beat, we show another title. And the last beat, we are going to another master shot. And this one I decided to treat it differently, despite the fact we hear these beats at the back. As I mentioned before, you cannot cut your video to your beats all the time because it will get boring, it will be predictable. And the beauty of video as well, if you got very nice shot, you want to show off that shot, even if it's slow motion or no slow motion, doesn't matter. And this particular one I liked very much, so I decided to keep it, but I needed to find the part of the music and part of the story which will fit nicely. And on the top of that, I came up with this idea to add the subtitles which are revealed once my fiance passes through the screen. How cool is that? You tell me. Then we go to another part of the video. As you will look at our timeline, we'll have more on this beat going up and down, this rhythm. Every time when you look at our beats, 1, 2, 3, you look at the cuts over there. So we've got the one cut to the beat, another cut to the beat, another cut to the beat, cut to the beat, cut to the beat, and even bring more variety to my video. I decided to make this underground subway part black and white, but that's more of a visual part, so I will leave it on the side. And then we move from our up and down beats to a different part of the music. We hear the beats over there. One beat, cut. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Then we see very interesting as well as kind of different part of the song. Please listen to that. You hear it? You don't have this beat rhythm going up, down, down, up, down. It's more continuous, rhythmic. Listen to that again. And this part allow me to go for this very long master shot I shot in the lift in Empire State Building. Basically, when you go to the lift and you go all the way up, they've got this cool animation at the top of the lift, so I decided to keep my camera low. And when you record this animation, it looked like you are going up and they build the Empire State Building as you go. It's epic. And this part of the soundtrack, we've got this more rhythmless, this up and down beat, felt perfectly. A bit of change to the music, but I still decided to keep my master shot from the lift. Now we've got the change to pace of our music, another part of this tune. This one, as you hear, was to build up the tension, and for me, instead of trying to match it with the fast cuts on the screen, I decided to keep one long cut to surprise everyone when my fiance come into frame, and then we realized that what we'll be watching was actually projection of the screen. Then we've got another part of the music which is similar to the one we've seen before. Another cast to the beats, but this time I decided to go for vertical footage to bring variety to my video. Same pattern, we've got the beats from up and down, up and down. I'm doing precise cut to that beat. Then we've got the end part of our video soundtrack, which will be repeating our pattern, cutting to the beats, changing the pace. Now we will go to the end, because by now I believe you got the pattern, how I'm cutting, how is my way of thinking when I'm looking at the footage and at my soundtrack. We've got the last beat. Actually, we can go 2 beats. We've got the beat, beat. Our music fades out, and as well as we fading out our screen to match our sound with the visual. Let's look one more time. Leaving the title on the screen because it's the main motive of the whole video. And the last thing, to make the outro for the whole video, I'm using the same soundtrack. I found the photos I want to share with you, so I animated them in a very simple way. And they appear with the cut to the music. Please look again and look at the soundtrack. Cut, 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 cut. And the last one to reveal the dusk over this amazing city which New York is. We hear the music. This part was left for end card for YouTube. The same rhythm of the music. Music fades out. And we stay on our screen. And that will be the whole story about the soundtrack. We put the soundtrack on the bottom track and then we match our footage. Once we've got this part done, then we go to our ambient sound, and then we go to our special effects to enrich the overall sound design. Now let's move quickly to our ambient sound. This one will be fairly straightforward. The audio track 4 and 5, as you will hear right now. It's a simple ambient sound. The first one is New York Street. If we listen just only to this one, we we hear just ambient sound of the streets. This one was called New York Street A. I found it online. It doesn't have to be New York Street. It might be any other street. You go, you do some research and try to find the ambient sound which will match the ambient of the footage you've got. Everything is going on in the New York, so I would add this ambient sound across the whole video to add another layer to storytelling. The next one is Subtle Wind. I got this one from Lens Distortion Pack, so if you listen to this one, it's the subtle sound you barely hear, and actually if I ask you to recognize that sound when all soundtracks are on, you will probably have no chance to spot it. But adding these different soundtracks, adding these ambient sounds on the different layers, it just adds to the overall mix at the end. It's the small things, but definitely add a lot to your storytelling. And last but not least, let's talk about the sound effects, which actually take your sound design to completely next level. Okay, let's start from the very beginning. Let's switch off unnecessary tracks and focus on our 3 audio tracks responsible for sound effects. And the first one will be Heat from Lens Distortion Pack. Is the one to accent our opening titles just before COVID hit. So we've got this heat and then we've got the sound wave fading out. Listen to it one more time. One click, second click, third click, and we've got the fourth click. Simple sounds of camera click to add this another layer to storytelling. Then we move forward to whooshes. So for a long time we don't have any sound effects. What is very important, once we go into discovering, learning and start using sound effects, we might go to the point when we start overusing them. So every time when you look at the video, think what kind of sound would add to the story. Because if you'd like to reflect the sound for everything what's happening on the screen, that might be a bit of overwhelming. Try to find the parts which you like to strengthen visual with the sound, find the sound effect and then add them precisely to your timeline. So with this one we've got our title of this video, which is very important. Once we see my fiance passing and wiping through the screen, I've added this natural whoosh from Lens Distortion to strengthen this particular moment of the video. I doubled the whoosh to give even more impact. Then we see her into Subway. So once she swipes Subway card, we've got this whoosh which is perfectly timed with her move. Then let's go forward. And this one is the most interesting part with regards to sound effects and this project. As I mentioned before, I managed to record the top screen of the lift which is going up in Empire State Building. And because there was no sound, we were in the lift, so I needed to design this sound from the scratch. The rule of thumb, you look at the screen, you see what's going on, and you try to imagine what kind of sound you will hear looking at the picture. Because we see construction as we go up in the lift, we see how the Empire State Building is built. So in that case, as simple as that, you need to find sounds of the construction. So if you look at my timeline, you will see something which is called hammer, jackhammer manual, another metal hammer. Let's listen to one of them first. What we hear is a rhythmic user of the hammer. Let's go to another one. Now all the way down of this part of the video we hear the jackhammer to add another layer. So we started off rhythmic hits of the hammer, then we've got the jackhammer. Let's go to the one above. We've got another sound of the hammer, slightly different. When we zoom in, you see the peaks of the hammer, because we've got the two of them slightly different on a different level, so they actually adds up. In between them, we've got this constant jackhammer. Let's move forward. And from hearing hammers, we move to the plane sound. As you can look at the footage, we've got our planes over there. So to strengthen the message, we needed the sound of flying planes. To make it even more realistic, I added fade in and fade down, so it looks like the planes appear and disappear with the sound. We've got another hammer. They will be the third one and the most intense. I decided to go for this one because when we zoom in, you see the peaks are more condensed, so we hear more of them. Listen to it one more time. And the only reason behind it, because we are getting to the end of this part of the footage and about to cut to another segment. So having this one more intense prepare us to go to another stage of the video. Now let's hear it one more time and let's focus how these three separate sound effects combined together works. It sounds good, isn't it? Now we went into the building. So once you got into Empire State Building, there will be a lot of animation projection on the screen across the whole building. So one of them was another part of the construction. So I decided to keep my soundtrack. I removed the one from the top to lower intensity. We've got the steel jackhammer, but when you look, it's been more intensive here as you look on the waveform, and this one is more of a subtle. And then we've got the classic hammer hits at the bottom. If you look at this one is called metal pink hammer. It's a kind of sound which took me a while to find it, which will imitate like a simple short metal ping. So when you hear this one and you would look what's going on in this part of the video, it looks like this guy is passing the hot coil to the other guy. So to strengthen that visual, I use this metal pink hammer. Now we've got the three separate videos vertical from my phone. To make it more interesting, I added as a simple button clicks. Every single time when we put on the screen one of these videos, we hear the simple button click. 1, 2, 3. Let's move forward. Because I try to bring variety of different cuts, different transitions, different pacing to the video to make it more interesting, I decided to do this effect when I'm going forward with the footage, and then with the click I'm reversing the footage. Please look at the footage for a second. Two is going forward and back. This effect is more artistic, not typical for storytelling. It's kind of like a glitch in the Matrix sci-fi effect, so adding the sound of the glitch just strengthen this unusual cut when we're going forward and fast forward backward. We see camera in the frame, so let's use camera click. We've got the whoosh, and then we will see another whoosh here. I decided to use whooshes in these two places because I'm using something which is called white pan. If you look closely at the footage, once we see someone passing in front of the camera, it reveals for us another footage. We've done it once and we've done it here second time. For each of them, I decided to add whoosh to strengthen this visual transition. Now we've got another whoosh when you look at the footage. I wanted to keep this long master shot how you can see Statue of Liberty from the Brooklyn Bridge. However, it was shot too long. So instead of doing cut in the middle, I decided to do the speed ramp. So when you look at my footage, this one was sped up to 200, this one to 200, and in the middle, we've got 2000 to 10 times faster. And as with previous one, we were going forward and backward, and I added this glitch effect. With this one, I decided to use the fast whoosh to highlight the speed ramp. And yeah, that will be the end of our effects. The rule of thumb, as always, try to use them wisely, not overuse them. First, start by looking at your footage and think what kind of story would you like to tell. Then find the right soundtrack. Try to imagine yourself how the footage you've just seen will match the soundtrack, whether the soundtrack is slow or fast enough, dynamic, more classic, cinematic, what kind of vibe of the song is, whether it will match the story you want to tell with the footage. Once you've got your soundtrack, then you try to build the story from your footage based on that soundtrack. Then you can think about the ambient sound to strengthen the dimension of the sound. And at the very end, you can start thinking about the sound effect. Where would you add these little nuggets of the sounds to make your story more dimensional, more interesting? How would you reflect what's going on the picture by using sound? This kind of videos can be heavily packed and not everything can be clear, but don't get discouraged. The most important, whatever you learn along the way, go and apply and practice, practice, practice. This is the way how I learn. I educated myself first and then I practice to create my own style, and whatever I learned, try to share with you. If something wasn't clear, ask me in the comments and I will try to answer them. If not, I will try to address any issues in the next videos. If you found this video useful, leave a thumbs up. If you think you will benefit by watching more of this kind of videos, consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to me. If you didn't like it at all, I can live with that. But I've got news for you. Next week I'm going to release another video, so come back and see whether you would like this one. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and until next time.